The stranger at the window. A dimly lit room, the soft hum of a television in the background. The only source of light is the glow of a bedside lamp. A young woman, Lena, mid-20s, sits on the edge of her bed, clutching her phone. Her breathing is unsteady. Whispering, tense. Hi, there's a man standing outside my window. He's just staring. He's been there for a while now, maybe 30 minutes. She peeks through the blinds, but quickly pulls back. Her fingers tremble as she adjusts the phone against her ear. Dispatcher, VO. Ma'am, can you describe him? Yeah, I think he's a man. I mean, he's standing really still. I can't see his face. It's too dark. But he's tall. Maybe in his 30s. He's just standing there in the alleyway. Her voice wavers. She bites her lip and glances at the window again. No, I mean, not really. But he won't move. He hasn't moved at all. She hesitates, then slowly peels the blinds apart with shaky fingers. The dark silhouette remains motionless, head slightly tilted upward, fixated on her window. Ma'am? His head just twitched. She lets the blinds snap shut, her breath catching in her throat. The apartment feels unbearably small, suffocating. We have officers on the way. Stay on the line with me. A faint noise. Lena's body stiffens. A soft, rhythmic tapping echoes through the room. It's coming from the window. Oh my God, he's tapping on the glass. The taps are slow, deliberate. Then, silence. Lena dares another look through the blinds. The man is closer now. Much closer. He wasn't there a second ago. Oh my God, he moved. He's right up against the glass. The figure looms in the darkness, inches from her window. His features remain obscured, but the faint glint of his teeth is visible in the dim light. A smile? Or just a trick of the shadows? Lena swallows hard. Ma'am, are your doors locked? Yes. A beat. A long, horrible beat. Are you alone? Lena nods, then realizes the dispatcher can't see her. Yeah. A shuffling sound outside. The man steps back, almost blending into the darkness. Then he moves. Not walking. Not running. Just shifting unnaturally, like a puppet being yanked by invisible strings. He's moving so weird, like he's not walking right. Silence. The officers should be approaching your alley now. They should see him. Lena peeks again. The man is gone. What the? He's not there anymore. Distant sirens wail in the night. Red and blue lights flicker against the walls of her room. They're there now. Can you see them? Yeah, Her voice catches in her throat. A figure stands at the far end of the alley, just beyond the reach of the flashing police lights. The officers don't seem to notice him. He stands still, watching her window, just like before. But this time, there's something in his hand. Something long, sharp. Oh my God, he's still there. The officers don't see him? Lena shakes her head, barely breathing. The sirens fade. The lights move away. The police are leaving. And in the darkness, the man smiles. The pizza place was about to close, and I was getting ready to go home when the phone rang. I was working the counter alone that night, so I had to take calls. I picked up, but there was complete silence. After a few seconds, I hung up. A minute later, the phone rang again. I picked up, expecting another prank, but this time I heard a faint, cold voice. It was an old woman. Her voice was weak, almost wheezing as she asked for a regular cheese pizza to be delivered. I was exhausted and just wanted to go home, but a delivery meant another tip, and old customers usually tip the most. So, I took down the address and told her the pizza would be there soon. But before I could finish, she had already hung up. I found that a little rude, but I ignored it and called out to the chef for one last pizza. My boss told me that after the delivery, I could go straight home since the place would be closed. A little before 10 o'clock, I got into my car and put the address into my GPS. The house was 7 miles away, on the quiet side of town. When I arrived, I found myself on a deserted street with only one small, run-down house. It was dark, no lights on, no signs of movement. The place felt abandoned. I walked up to the door and rang the bell. No answer. I rang again. Still nothing. Just as I was about to give up, something caught my eye. Through a window, I saw a figure standing motionless. It was an old woman. Her face was expressionless as she stared at me. Her eyes, dark and hollow, seemed to bore right through me. A chill crawled up my spine. I took a step back, then hesitantly moved closer to the window. "I have your pizza," I called out. No response. I raised my voice. "Ma'am, I have your pizza." Slowly, a wide smile stretched across her face. Not a warm, friendly smile, but something unnatural. Something that made my skin crawl. That was enough for me. I turned and walked quickly back to my car, setting the pizza in the passenger seat. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone to text my boss. Just as I hit send, my breath caught in my throat. I turned my head. The old woman was now standing right outside my passenger side window. That same grin, that same empty stare. I didn't think. I threw the car into drive and floored it, gravel flying as I sped down the empty road. In my rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the middle of the street watching me leave. Her head tilted, that awful grin never fading. Last time I brought a pizza back, my boss gave me attitude, so I reluctantly walked through the overgrown grass and made my way around the small house to the backyard. There was an old shed and a little patio back there. On the patio, a wooden table sat with 4 chairs around it. In one of the chairs facing away from me, I saw the back of someone's head. Their body sat completely still. I hesitated, then stepped closer. "Excuse me," I called out. No response. I took another step. "Excuse me," I said louder. Still, the person didn't move. Then from behind me, a voice whispered, "Over here." I froze. Slowly, I turned around. A man was peeking out from the corner of the house, his face stretched into a crazed smile. Chilling escape, the pizza delivery incident. "Come here," he whispered. "I want to show you something." A sharp, cold panic surged through my body. I turned and ran. I didn't care about anything, my boss, the delivery, the tip. I bolted around the house, still gripping the pizza box, and dove into my car. My hands fumbled with the keys, but I managed to start the engine and speed away. Only when I was a safe distance away did I pull over and call the police. They arrived at the house shortly after, but there was no sign of anyone living there. In fact, they told me the house had been abandoned for years. I quit my delivery job a few days later. I still wonder what would have happened if I had stepped closer, if I had looked at the person in the patio chair. To this day, I regret not knowing, but a part of me is thankful I never found out. That wasn't the only terrifying night I had while delivering pizzas. One evening, while driving through a rural shortcut I had taken many times before, thick fog blanketed the road. My headlights barely cut through the darkness. Then, out of nowhere, a figure jumped out from the trees. I had no time to react. Car jolted. My stomach twisted as I slammed the brakes. My heart pounded as I sat frozen in my seat, hands gripping the steering wheel. I had just hit someone. I jumped out of the car, my breath ragged, and rushed to check on them. A man in a black hoodie lay motionless near my front tire, his hood pulled up over his face. My mind raced. Why the hell was he out here? Why did he jump in front of my car? Then, before I could do anything, a blood-curdling scream rang out from the woods beside the road. A woman's voice. "Help! Someone help me!" I snapped my head toward the sound, my pulse pounded in my ears. I looked back at the man. He was still unmoving. I hesitated. Just for a minute, I thought. Just long enough to see if someone needed help. I stepped into the woods. The thick fog swallowed me as I moved toward where I had heard the scream. "Hello?" I called out. "Where are you?" Silence. Then, a single footstep. Leaves crunched behind a tree. I turned sharply. Through the fog, I saw the outline of a figure peering at me from behind the trunk. My chest tightened. I wasn't alone out here. Without another second of hesitation, I sprinted back to my car, not daring to look back. When I reached the road, my breath caught in my throat. The man I had hit was gone. I didn't stick around to find out where he went. I jumped in my car, locked the doors, and drove straight to my next delivery. When I arrived at the customer's house, I tried to shake off my nerves. I rang the doorbell, and a middle-aged woman answered. As I handed her the pizza, she suddenly frowned, her eyes shifting to something behind me. "They let you guys have delivery partners now?" she asked. I felt my blood run cold. "What?" I whispered. She gestured toward my car. "There's someone in your back seat." A sinking dread filled my stomach. Slowly, I turned my head. Through the fogged-up rear window, I saw a dark figure sitting in my back seat. I bolted inside the woman's house and called the police. By the time they arrived, the back seat was empty. But on the floor of my car, they found something the intruder had left behind. A blood-stained knife. Even now, I try not to think about what could have happened if I hadn't made that delivery, if I had just driven straight home. Some nights, I still wake up wondering, how long had he been in my car before I noticed?